There's only one rule you need to know when it comes to practicing yoga consistently. You don't need to be consistent, you just need to not be inconsistent. Now, I know that sounds like the same thing, but this tiny little mindset shift changed everything for me. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to practice yoga consistently through this counterintuitive approach. And if you're new here, I'm Smita, but you can call me Sushi. And on this channel, I help you master your mind through yoga and build this consistent practice from the comfort of your own home. And if you've already tried all the self-help books, read all the, binge-worthy, whatever news articles, and you've already done all your research, but you still can't practice consistently, then there might be something to look at in the way you're seeing consistency. And there is a link in the description below to book a call with me. But after you watch this video, because what I'm about to share today might just change the way you see consistency entirely. So let's dive right in. So back when I was in high school, we used to have this titration experiment where we would be given this clear flask with a clear solution in it, and you slowly add chemicals to it, and the whole solution appears clear for a while, and then suddenly it changes color. Now, I used to cheat, and I used to wait for the teacher to walk by and then find out, okay, when does it actually change color? And I'll just let it go until that point, and then I'll slow it down, be like, oh yeah, I'm watching it, I'm really being patient, and then exactly when it turns pink, then I'd be like, oh look, it turned pink. So don't do that, don't be like me. But what I'm trying to say is, the first drop, as you add each drop, the first drop is when the chemical reaction begins. It's not in that 78th drop when the whole solution turns a different color. And this is the way that our practice also works. The reaction starts when you step on the mat for the first time. But if you just let the flask go, you stop dripping it one by one, then you almost allow this this too much of a time gap, and you don't see the solution turning pink. And when it turns pink is when you have your breakthrough moment. It's when you start to experience stillness, you start to experience gains in flexibility, you start to become a better person, all these cool things that yoga promises. But every single time you step on the mat, even for 5 to 10 minutes, you're adding just one single drop. And your nervous system is responding, your body is doing its work, and your body is learning, and your mind is really shifting. I know you can't see it initially, but I promise you it's happening. And this is where most people quit, because they see the clear solution, it's the 75th drop, and they're like, nothing's really happening, it's just taking up 20 minutes of my morning, maybe I should try meditation, maybe I should try breath work, or they try different things, but they're at the 75th drop, and they don't realize if they just kept going one drop at a time, they would have reached that breakthrough point. And before that breakthrough point, although the chemical reaction is happening, it's just not visible yet. And I'll be honest with you, I almost quit too. In the first 6 months of my Ashtanga practice, I started and I was able to get a lot of poses quickly, and that was my plateau. I just couldn't do a lot more because I didn't know how. I didn't have the exact guidance on how to get better, and I just felt like nothing was really happening. I wasn't getting all these cool experiences that people were talking about. But the truth is, I just hadn't reached my breakthrough point yet. And if I'd quit at that point, if I didn't just keep going, if I didn't just keep showing up every single day, then I would not have reached that breakthrough point. And you don't have to show up perfectly. Just keep in mind, you don't have to show up perfectly, you don't have to show up every single day. All you have to think of is to not be inconsistent. So when I started, I made sure that I never let between 3 or 4 days of a gap between each of my practices. And somewhere around month 7, just after I got through this phase of, okay, I'm doing this practice, I'm not really unlocking asanas or anything like that, everything shifted. I began to see the practice as this clear way to kind of change and shift my mind state. And I sat down on my mat. I remember this really clearly because I was living in Pondicherry at this time, and I looked out and I could see the ocean view, and I was just sitting there and I was like, wow, my mind actually feels still. I'm not going at 100 miles per hour. I can slow down and I can breathe and set myself up for the practice. And when I noticed my mind was actually quiet, that's when I realized every single practice before that point was actually leading up to this point where I could sit in front of the ocean and do my pranayama before I was practicing, and I felt completely clear, and I wasn't, thinking about my day or seeing how much time I have. I was just able to like slip into the practice. So this is what I want to say is, even if you're not seeing any results in your practice right now, you could just be at drop 75. Just wait until the whole solution turns pink, because when it does, trust me, your whole world changes and you feel a lot better. But the way this works is it actually works in an exponential curve. Every single time you practice, you're not just adding one drop, you're actually multiplying the efforts of your previous drops as well. So let's say your first practice gives you 1 unit of transformation. I know that sounds like really tiny and insignificant, but your second practice, practice 2, gives you 2 units of transformation, and your practice 3 doesn't just give you 3 units of transformation, it actually doubles. Each and every practice, it's like an exponential curve. So you're not just adding one drop and then seeing the benefits, immediately. Slowly over time, with each practice, it almost multiplies your efforts. And so when you do this, you notice, wow, at the end of like 13 practices or whatever, I'm so much further than I was like when I first started. And this way, consistency compounds, and it doesn't happen linearly. And when it compounds and the breakthrough actually happens, you'll notice you see the world differently, you feel a lot more energy, and that's where the true like magical stuff with yoga starts to happen. So just remember, each practice builds on the previous one exponentially and not linearly. But also, this means that like when you don't practice, and this is what I wish someone had told me when I started practicing, whenever you miss a practice, you don't just lose the last session, you lose that compounding effect. So this is where it gets scary, because you don't want to be missing too many classes. And let's say you're in practice 12 and you skip practice 13 because whatever, you just don't feel like it that day, or you're hungry and you want to go out for a snack. Your progress doesn't just pause, it doesn't just be like, oh yeah, I can get back to it. It actually goes backwards to where you were previously. So practice 10. And you lose the benefits of 2 practices. Now just keep in mind, this is a mental model just to help you understand like how this consistency thing works, because when you miss a practice, the cost is a lot. It's not just that, you're stalling and nothing is happening. You don't realize it, but it's a bit like this game of snakes and ladders. I'm sure you've played this as a kid, but it's like you keep practicing, you say, okay, practice 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're practicing consistently, you're like using a habit tracker, and suddenly you hit a snake. So you're back at square one, you're like going back to practice as if this was your first day. And this is what happens when you miss multiple practices in a row. Whether you go on a vacation, or like work just feels too busy, or like there's like some family stuff that's happening. And what happens is you slid backwards way more than you think. And then 3 months has gone by and you think, oh my gosh, it feels like I'm starting from scratch. This is what happens when people come to me and they say, oh my gosh, I went away for 2 weeks and it feels like, all the progress that I've been making for 3 months just vanished and I feel like I'm starting from scratch. This is why this is the case. Because although your effort, when you're consistent, compounds exponentially, it's also when you're inconsistent, you slide backwards and it feels like you're literally starting over. And that's why it feels like this game of snakes and ladders. If you also like do a half-hearted practice, this is also a snake. So missing practice and doing half-hearted practices where, you're on your mat, but you're completely checked out, you're thinking about some Netflix documentary, or you're doing all the poses without this deep sense of presence. That's when you know that you're putting in the effort, but somehow, some way, you're training your nervous system to associate yoga with disconnection. And this creates this like bad aftertaste. And this is where you kind of lose momentum and you're actually not putting in the right efforts to move up the ladder. So that's also a snake. So just watch out for these 2 snakes, missing practices and actually being just checked out when you're practicing. So after all of this, you understand, okay, I should just not be inconsistent, and I know that, I shouldn't be like all over the place when I'm on the mat. What is the one rule that actually makes sense to put this all together? The one rule that works for me is I won't let 3 to 4 days pass between two practices. And so what I'm actually measuring is not how consistent I am, because that puts a lot of pressure on me. I'm actually counting the days between the missed practices. And that's it. So you don't have to practice every single day. You don't have to practice perfectly. You don't need to do 2-hour sessions. You just need to be not inconsistent. So let's say you start on Monday and you practice 15 minutes. You do a little bit of breath work, you do like some fundamental positions, and then you close off. And then you skip Tuesday and Wednesday because your work schedule is just crazy and you've got to be at work really early. So you come back on the mat and you practice on Thursday and you do 10 to 15 sun salutations, and that's it. Now this is not being inconsistent. You stayed within that 3 to 4 day window and your drops are still accumulating and you're still making progress. So this is where you're climbing the ladder. Even though you're not like reaching for it and going really fast, you're still not breaking the chain. And if you contrast this to someone who just starts their week with all the enthusiasm, they start Monday, they do their 15-minute practice, and then life happens, and the next time they come back to the mat is only the following Tuesday. And I'm sure this has happened to you. If you're nodding, you're like, yeah, I know, that's me. Don't worry, that's like 8 days of missed practice. That's when you hit a snake. That's when you slide backwards, because just remember, you're breaking the chain of consistency, and when you break the chain of consistency, you're losing momentum. And if you lose momentum, that's what really kills all your progress that you've made on the mat. So just remember to keep that 3 to 4 day rule in mind, because even Patanjali in one of the Yoga Sutras, he says, Satu Dirgha Kala Nairantarya Satkara Adhara Asevito Dridabhumihi. And he basically says you must practice for a long time and you must practice uninterruptedly. And I love this notion of uninterruptedly. It's not like he's saying, never miss a day, you always have to be perfect, you've got to do it every single day, otherwise, you're going to be punished or something like that. It just means that you don't let real interruption happen, which means you don't break the chain and you don't let the habit unravel and go so much that you can't pull it back. And Patanjali wasn't advocating for like superhuman perfection or sticking to something so rigidly. All he's trying to say is, even in the face of minor setbacks, even when life gets really, really busy, you have to prioritize and understand the cumulative effect of small, regular, consistent practice that then slowly builds into something like stronger and becomes a part of your life. So think of this as uninterruptedly just means don't miss 3 to 4 days in between. And consistency isn't some trait that you either have or you don't have. It's not like some magical thing that you're born with. It's just like knowing your lifestyle, and it's this kind of reaction. It's this delicate chemical process that's always happening in the background, and you just need to consciously put one drop every single day, however that looks like, and consciously keep it alive. Even if life gets busy, don't not put drops for 3 to 4 days. And it's really a choice that you make. And when you see it this way, when you see, all I have to do is not be inconsistent, you can repeatedly show up for yourself without all of that pressure. So if you miss one day, instantly forgive yourself. Don't waste a second feeling guilty, feeling bad about yourself. Just focus on resetting and coming back to it. But if you miss 3 to 4 days and you're reaching that 3 to 4 day mark where you haven't practiced, then be hard on yourself. Actually, hold yourself to it. This is where you have to be your own inner teacher, and because if you lose momentum, you're going to go back to where you started. So try this and start today. Your challenge isn't about doing lots of yoga or advanced yoga, anything like that. It's just about mastering, never miss more than 3 to 4 days in a row, and track only this metric. Track and see how many days you miss between practices, and whenever you're getting close to that 3 to 4 day mark, do 15 minutes. 15 minutes in a day is nothing. Come on, guys. We're all busy, but we can all afford to spend 15 minutes on the mat. So that's all I have for you today. By the way, if you're struggling to stay consistent on your own, there is a link in the description below. Don't worry, it's not like some email newsletter where I'm just going to send you stuff that's going to go to your spam. It is a video that you can watch. It's a video of me telling you how I might be able to help you get more consistent. And then if I feel like you're a right fit on the call, then I will invite you to join my Yoga Mastery program. But don't worry about that. You don't even have to click. I'm just glad you stayed and watched till the very end and got some value out of it, hopefully, on how to be like consistent and build a routine with your yoga practice. And if you like this video, I'm sure there's a thumbs up button somewhere below, so make sure to click that button and subscribe, because when you subscribe, it tells the algorithm that every time I post a new video, you're going to be notified. And if you want any other videos on things that you're struggling with your yoga practice, make sure to comment that below. But either way, I'm so happy that you watched till the very end. Thank you for your kind attention. Have a lovely day ahead, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.